So I actually have two questions. And first question is, if two people in a long-term relationship and there has never been like a crazy, passion for one another, but over time it becomes very apparent that that passion really disappears. So is it possible to kind of artificially create that passion for one another, or you cannot force the connection? So yeah, that's the first question. And another question is actually about feeling people and hearing people's thoughts and like tuning into others. And sometimes that happens with me, that happens unintentionally, that over the sudden I just start having these massive feelings. Most of the time they're not very good feelings. They're like feelings of fear, feelings of anxiety, feelings of some sort of disbalance. And it comes very strongly over me and like knocks me out, and actually sometimes even triggers my own trauma by the resonance of like such intense emotions. So I was wondering if there is a way to protect myself or differentiate, because sometimes it's quite difficult to differentiate. Is it mine or is it somebody else's? And how to handle that if I don't want to feel other people.
This is your first time here?
On this talk, yes.
You're the winner. Those are great questions. Wow, thank you. So let me see. So I'm going to answer the second one first, or say what I see, what I see. So Ram Dass said, it's not that you want too much, it's that you don't want enough. And in a sense, that applies here, because it sounds to me, in the early stages of my turning on my hearing, my seeing, my feeling, there was still a notion that there was mine and yours. And that's when really you're beginning to tune in, period. Often what I would feel and not realize was the activation of what existed inside of me rising to the surface for me to hear and see and feel. And I think I have a good idea of what happens over there now, but I think there's a place. So what I would say is keep going. I would say keep going, go through the fear, go through the, because it's not yours and it's not theirs. It's just, it's what's called klesha. It's just like in an airplane, when they just keep recirculating the air, it's just the same recirculated air going through your body, going through their body. And then eventually there are ways to become, I talk about Om, the practice that we teach, but there are other ways as well, that you become like what's called the people at Ephesus the women who worked at Ephesus back in the day. There would be warriors. They stood on the top of the mountain in these footprints, and they would lead down to the sacred temple. And it said these women would wash the warriors' feet and then milk the war out of them and send them back into the world as love. Fundamentally, that's the practice that I'm interested in, is a kind of having a body that's like photosynthesis, something that can take in the smog, convert it into oxygen, and send it back out. Now, I would be remiss if, so you're saying activate your own trauma. So then the first thing I would say is I would work through that in whatever way you know how. How I did it was I increased the heat inside of me so that it burned through. But I want to say I had really serious Buddhist practice. I had a lot of structure around me as I did that. But whatever you do something, because something's opening in you. And I have the sense it's not going to decrease, but increase. And so if it increases, I want you to be as safe and peaceful as possible as you go through that process. That's the first thing. And, you know, always, anytime you can find a state of emptiness, which means a lack of sense of self, then it's almost like dipping in a bath that clears everything. And so all of that debris goes. And in terms of Om, I was reading about Om. So, you know, my consort Ray used to say to me, I would say, oh, I'm nuts, I'm crazy, I'm upset. And he would say, okay, let's Om, and then we'll talk about it. Well, I'd Om, and then I wasn't nuts, crazy, or upset, and because it had all circulated and purified inside of me. So that's that one. And then I think your other question, they're both such interesting questions. Your question about passion. I read this, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert, and she said, but it's also a Buddhist expression. It's something on the order of, if you see somebody and you feel so much excitement and passion, they're probably not your soulmate. And that because often what we call passion or excitement is a contraction. And the person who will bring you to the most exquisite locations is the one you'll relax with. Because fundamentally it's progressive relaxation, a building of trust at the next layer. And this is with yourself and with them, relaxation and trust, relaxation and trust. And then inside of that, that's what feeds what we're actually looking for. Often what we call passion, although I like passion, I'm Sicilian, so often what we call passion is it's like the corn syrup rather than the maize, rather than the sacred corn. You know, it's like it's extracted and it has a theatrical, and you know, you're getting done. But there is, I have never experienced a passion greater than, you know, in all of the gates of my mind opening while being with another person. So if you have that potential, that to me sounds great. Then what happens, I mean, the truth is we all have a lot of archetypes within us. From that relaxed place, all of those characters feel free to come out. So then if you don't like your partner, you can like the 5,000 other archetypes that exist within them and just make out with them. And I'm sure there's one you'll feel passionate about. That's what I do anyway. I like the body it's housed into, but I'm saying that's what I look for. That's actually what I look for. Like if I see somebody, like I have such a crush on J. Cole, for example. I can't even listen to his music anymore. I have such a crush on him. If I saw him, I would go in the other direction because but it would be, there are people here and their eyes are like, because there's no way it would ever work. I have to find somebody who, the minute I'm in their presence, I feel that same relaxation that I felt with the woman who felt like the peach to me, where it feels like my body's just melting off of the bones. That's what we're looking for, you know, if we aren't living in a romance novel.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Great question.